It all started with a stupid dare. One of those late-night nothing-to-do, too much caffeine kind of dares that nobody thinks will actually happen. But that night, in a cramped dorm room at Briarwood University, 5 students sat in a circle, half drunk on cheap vodka and teenage invincibility, staring at each other like something bigger than boredom was about to begin. "You won't do it," Max said, grinning as he leaned back against the old mattress on the floor. "You're too chicken." "I will," came the quick response from Lily. Her arms folded, dark eyeliner making her already bold eyes even more intense. "You think I'm scared of some abandoned building?" "You should be," said Jen softly, her voice nearly drowned by the wind rattling against the dorm window. "That place, it's not just old. People say it's cursed." Everyone looked at her. "Seriously, Jen?" laughed Kyle, the tall, quiet guy who rarely spoke unless it was sarcastic. "Every haunted place is cursed. It's like part of the marketing." Jen didn't smile. "It's not just stories. My cousin went in there once with his friends. He doesn't talk about what happened, but he came out different. He dropped out of school. He barely talks to anyone now. Swears something followed him home." There was a long pause. Then Max rolled his eyes and waved his hand like he was shooing away bad energy. "Ghosts aren't real. And even if they are, they're probably super bored." But the name of the place carried weight. Black Hollow Asylum. Even saying it made the room feel colder. Everyone in town knew about it. Built in 1902, it had once been the crown jewel of psychiatric care. But by the 1950s, it had devolved into a nightmare, patients over-medicated, strapped to beds, hidden in dark rooms. There were whispers of experiments, illegal treatments, disappearances. Then in 1974, the government shut it down. No formal explanation, just closed overnight. The doors were chained shut, the windows boarded, the whole place left to rot. But the legends grew. Strange lights at night, screaming in the wind, shadows seen through cracks in the boards. Kids dared each other to break in, but most only got as far as the outer courtyard. "So what's the dare exactly?" Lily asked, crossing her legs. Max grinned like a devil. "You go in, alone, walk through the main hall all the way to the back ward. Snap a picture of the old surgical room, then come back." Lily raised an eyebrow. "That's it?" "That's it. If I do it, what do I get?" "The loser buys dinner for a week," said Kyle. "And if you chicken out," added Max, "you wear the chicken hat to class for a month." Lily laughed. "Fine, deal." The next night, the 5 of them piled into Max's beat-up Toyota and drove through the woods toward the asylum. The road was rough, more dirt than asphalt. Trees leaned in from both sides like crooked fingers trying to block their path. By the time the asylum appeared, everyone had gone quiet. Black Hollow sat at the top of a small hill, surrounded by rusted fences and tangled weeds. The building itself was massive, 3 stories of decaying brick, with turrets like an old Victorian mansion. The windows, mostly shattered, stared out like black eyes. It was beautiful in the worst way. "Why do all haunted places look the same?" muttered Kyle as he helped cut a hole in the chain-link fence. They passed through the gap and climbed the hill, flashlights barely piercing the darkness. The wind howled louder up here, like it knew they were trespassing. "I can't believe we're doing this," whispered Jen. "Technically," Max said, "only Lily is doing it. We're just the cheering squad." They reached the front steps. The giant wooden doors were still chained shut, but the left side hung slightly open, just enough for someone slim to squeeze through. "Here." Max handed Lily a flashlight and an old Polaroid camera. "Be back in 10 minutes, she said confidently. "Try not to pee yourselves." Then she slipped inside. The door creaked shut behind her. Inside, the air changed. It smelled like dust, mildew, and something sweet, like rotting fruit. Lily clicked on her flashlight. The beam flickered, then steadied. The main hall stretched before her, long, wide, lined with shattered picture frames and peeling wallpaper. The floor creaked under every step. Somewhere far above, something dripped. She moved slowly, her boots crunching over broken glass. The air was heavy. Every breath felt like it was pulling in old memories. She passed door after door. Some were still marked. Recreation room, records, pediatrics. Most were broken, hanging off hinges. The deeper she went, the darker it became. As she turned a corner, she saw it, the surgical ward. The sign above the door was half gone, but the letters, Cal Theater, were still visible. The door was open just slightly. She pushed it open. The room inside was wide and circular. At the center stood a rusted operating table, still bolted to the floor. Above it hung an ancient dust-covered light like a spider waiting to drop. Lily raised the camera. Click. The flash lit up the room for half a second. That's when she saw a figure standing at the far wall. She froze. The flashlight flickered, then died. Silence. Nothing but her breathing. She raised the camera again and took another picture. Click. This time the flash showed nothing there, but the hair on her neck stayed raised. She turned and ran. Outside, the group waited nervously. When the door finally creaked open again and Lily came stumbling out, pale and shaking, they rushed toward her. "You okay?" Max asked. She didn't speak, just shoved the camera into his hands. "Check the photos." There were only two. The first showed the operating table and a blurry humanoid shadow by the wall. The second showed the same scene, but empty. No one laughed. "Guys," Lily whispered, her voice shaking. "I wasn't alone in there." They all turned and looked back up at the asylum. Somewhere from deep inside the building, they heard a scream, distant, echoing, not human. No one spoke, they just ran. The door didn't creak like they expected. It groaned like it was in pain, long, low, and unnatural. The kind of sound that made you want to turn back instantly, but nobody did. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, beams sweeping over broken wheelchairs, moldy walls, and graffiti that looked like it had been drawn in blood. Even though everyone told themselves it was just red paint. "Dude, this place smells like death," muttered Ryan, covering his nose with his hoodie sleeve. Maya didn't say anything. She just kept her flashlight trained ahead, jaw tight. There was something about this place that immediately felt off. It wasn't just the decay. It was like the air itself was watching them, breathing with them. "Let's stick together, all right?" said Luis, the one holding the printed layout of the building. "The main hall's just down this corridor." They began walking. The floor crunched under their feet, glass bones or both, no one could tell. As they passed a room marked W12 Observation, something made Emily stop. There was a mirror on the far wall, cracked and dirty. But in the reflection, she swore she saw someone walking behind them. She turned around. Nothing. Her flashlight wobbled. She frowned, trying to play it cool, then caught up with the others. But the doubt didn't leave her. "Did you guys see someone else in here?" "No," said Luis. "We're the only idiots who'd come in here at night." Still, the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. As they moved deeper, they noticed the hallways felt more alive. Not metaphorically, like literally. The air grew heavier, thicker. The wallpaper peeled like rotting skin, and the ceilings creaked with every footstep, as if the building didn't like them being there. The strangest part? It was cold. But everyone was sweating. They stopped at the nurse's station. Old files were scattered across the floor, yellowed and water-damaged. Ryan picked one up. "Patient 089. Multiple delusions, violent tendencies. Prescribed, what is this, a silencing therapy?" "What the hell does that mean?" "I read about this," Maya replied. "Some asylums used experimental treatments. Isolation, drug-induced comas, even restraints for weeks." Emily shivered. "So, torture?" "Basically." Luis held up a file with a burned edge. There was a photograph inside, a black and white headshot, of a man with hollow eyes and something carved into his forehead. "What the?" Luis said, showing them. Emily turned pale. "That symbol. It's painted on the front door." The same one. Suddenly, a loud metallic clang echoed from deep inside the asylum. They froze. No one moved. No one spoke. Ryan broke the silence. "Please tell me that was the wind." Luis whispered, "There are no windows open." They all looked at each other. The silence that followed felt heavier than before. They decided to keep moving. The quicker they got to the main hall, the quicker they could finish filming and get the hell out. But as they walked past the old treatment wing, the door to room 302 was ajar. A faint, low humming sound came from inside, like someone singing underwater. "Don't go in there," Emily said instinctively. But Maya was already peeking in. "There's something moving." Luis stepped forward, swinging the flashlight toward the corner of the room. The beam revealed a wheelchair slowly turning by itself, empty, squeaking, turning. Then it stopped. Everyone stepped back. Emily began to breathe faster. Okay, I'm out. This is not worth some TikTok views." "No, wait," Luis said. We've come this far. Just the main hall. 5 more minutes. Reluctantly, they agreed. But the asylum wasn't done playing with them. Luis turned on the camera he brought, a handheld night vision recorder. Might as well document this. The screen glitched slightly but started recording. Through the night vision lens, the hallway ahead looked eerily different. There were shadows on the wall, like people standing in line, but when he lowered the camera, nothing was there. When he lifted it again, the shadows moved. Oh wait, Luis didn't tell the others, not yet. They reached the main hall, a domed ceiling, stained glass shattered above, letting in beams of pale moonlight. A broken gurney lay overturned in the middle, and rusted medical tools were scattered like someone dropped everything and ran. On the far end, a wide black metal door. Morgue, Ryan read aloud. Nope, Emily said. Not going in there. But Luis was already pushing it open. Inside, it was colder. Rows of wall drawers where bodies were once stored. A few were still open. There were claw marks on the inside of one, not scratches. Claw marks. Emily backed away slowly. This is wrong. This place is wrong. Ryan turned to say something, then froze. He pointed to the wall behind Maya. Scrawled in red were the words, "You shouldn't have come." It wasn't there earlier. Suddenly all their flashlights flickered. Then total darkness. They screamed. Luis dropped the camera. Maya grabbed Ryan's arm. Footsteps echoed around them, fast, circling, closing in. The air grew icy. Something whispered right in Emily's ear. "You're already part of us." She screamed and ran toward the hallway. They all bolted after her. They ran for the exit. Everything looked different. The hallway was longer, twisted. Doors they'd passed were now gone. The asylum had shifted. The building had changed its layout. "Where's the door?" Ryan shouted. No one had an answer. They ran blindly, adrenaline fueling every step. Eventually, they crashed into what looked like the entrance again. The door was there. They pushed it. It opened. They stumbled out, breathless, shaking into the cold night. But as they turned back, the door was gone. So was the asylum. In its place, only thick fog, like it never existed. It started with a draft, not just any draft, one that felt unnaturally cold, as if it didn't come from any vent or broken window, but from something breathing beneath the floors. Ethan was the first to notice it. He paused at the end of a long corridor, flashlight trembling in his hand. "Guys, do you feel that?" The cold breeze touched his neck like fingers tracing a warning. Lena turned slowly. "It's coming from there," she said, pointing to a partially collapsed wall covered with mold and dust. Underneath the rubble, they found what looked like an old maintenance hatch, metal, rusted, bolted shut, but barely. They exchanged glances. "Nobody go in yet," Tyler warned. "Let me check first." Of course, Tyler being Tyler didn't wait for a reply. He pried the hatch open with a metal rod from an old stretcher. It groaned like something alive. The smell that escaped from the darkness beneath was foul, a mix of rust, mildew, and rot. Lena gagged. "This isn't a basement. It's a dungeon." Inside, a narrow stairway spiraled down into pitch black. They descended slowly, one by one, camera rolling, flashlights casting dancing shadows on the decaying walls. The stairs opened into a narrow underground corridor lined with thick steel doors. Each door had a tiny rectangular slit, the kind you'd see in solitary confinement cells. There were scratches on every wall, deep gouges, some bloody, some shaped like letters. Lena brushed away some dirt and whispered, "There are names carved in the concrete. LH Me 967, SG 1972, Dr. IS. Ethan stopped cold. "Wait, why is there a doctor's name here? Were the doctors in prison too?" Lena shone her light directly at the name. Next to Dr. IS, someone had scratched a phrase in shaky, desperate lines. "I belong here now." "What the hell?" Tyler muttered. Lena flipped open her notebook. She'd copied down part of the asylum's old blueprints before coming. "This ward doesn't exist on any of them. It's called Ward X in some handwritten notes I found in the archives. There's no official record." "No wonder," Ethan said, wiping cold sweat from his forehead. "This is where they put the people they wanted everyone to forget." They opened one of the cell doors, and it let out a metallic scream like something dying. Inside was a small dark room with a single, rusted bed frame and claw marks all over the walls. But what really stopped them was the journal sitting neatly in the middle of the bed. perfectly preserved despite the humidity. Lena picked it up carefully. The first page read, "Property of Dr. I.S. If found, please burn this." They looked at each other. She opened it anyway. The entries were horrifying. I told them not to bring her here. She doesn't sleep, doesn't eat, but speaks in voices I don't understand. Last night she whispered to me things about my childhood she shouldn't know. I lost 3 patients in 2 weeks. Then a nurse. I locked myself in this room. I thought I was safe. The final entry was written in what looked like blood. She's in here with me now, but I can't see her anymore. Lena slammed the journal shut. Ethan stepped back. So this doctor locked himself in here? On purpose? Tyler swallowed hard. To escape something or someone. A long silence fell. Then they heard it. Tap, tap, tap. Soft, repetitive. Coming from one of the farthest cells. They turned. "Jess?" Ethan called. No answer. He turned around. "Wait, where is she?" Lena's breath caught. Jess had been walking behind them the whole time. They ran back down the corridor, shouting her name. Nothing. Whoa. Her voice crackled faintly through the radio. "Ethan, I'm here, but something's wrong." Then silence. Then static. They found her camera lying on the floor, still recording. In the playback, Jess is walking, talking to herself. This is so messed up. But we have to document it, right? People need to see this. She walks past the cells, brushing her fingers along the wall. Then she stops. The camera swings slightly. A soft whisper comes from the darkness. "Jess." She spins around. Nothing there. Then the footage glitches. Her face twists like she sees something we can't. Then she screams. The image goes black. Back in real time, Ethan is trembling. Lena is near tears. Tyler stares at the cell marked Dr. I.S. "Do you think," he begins. "Oh, she got locked in?" "No," Lena replies, voice shaking. "I think something let her in." They continue searching deeper into the forbidden ward. Every step feels heavier. The air feels thick. Time feels slow. They begin seeing reflections in places where there are no mirrors, hearing voices that sound like their own but slightly wrong. In one cell, scrawled in charcoal across the entire wall, is a sentence repeated hundreds of times. She watches through the cracks. Lena stumbles back, nearly tripping. "What does that mean?" "Who's she?" Tyler doesn't answer. He's staring into a broken mirror on the floor. His reflection isn't his. The asylum felt colder now, colder than it had any right to be. Kyle and Nate ran through the dark hallways, calling out Jess's name. It had been over 30 minutes since she vanished down in that underground ward. They retraced every hallway, every room, but it was like she just vanished. "Jess," Nate yelled again, his voice echoing and bouncing off the cracked, moldy walls. Then finally they saw her. She was standing at the far end of the main hallway. Still, completely still, her arms limp by her sides, her head slightly tilted like a doll that had been left out too long. Her eyes were vacant, empty, like someone else had taken over the body of the friend they knew. "Jess?" Kyle whispered, slowly approaching her. No reaction. But then she started muttering. At first they couldn't make out the words. It sounded like names. Names of people neither of them recognized. Amelia, David, Sister Agnes, Father Bruckner. The names rolled off her tongue like a chant, slow, eerie, and disconnected. Nate stepped forward carefully, shining the flashlight gently toward her face. That's when she snapped. Jess let out a bone-chilling scream, high, piercing, and completely out of character. She turned fast, almost inhumanly fast, and bolted down the hall. "Jess, wait!" Kyle shouted. But she didn't stop. She didn't even turn back. They chased her, through a maze of halls that seemed unfamiliar, even though they had just been there an hour ago. The air got heavier. The lights from their flashlights flickered again, as if the building itself was rejecting them. They finally found her. She was in the old surgical room. It looked like something out of a nightmare. Rusted tables, shattered light fixtures hanging by exposed wires, and old medical tools scattered across the floor. Jess was sitting on the operating table, legs crossed, humming to herself, and laughing. It wasn't her laugh. It was hollow, wrong, like someone was wearing her voice. Nate stepped forward but stopped when the walls began to shake. Not violently, but subtly, like the building was breathing. Then out of nowhere, the overhead speakers crackled to life. No power in the building, and yet a voice, soft, raspy, and disturbingly calm, spoke through the static. "Are you ready to be healed?" The words sent chills down their spines. Kyle turned his flashlight toward the speaker. What the hell was that? Suddenly, footsteps. Dozens of them. But as they were alone, only the three of them were in this building, weren't they? The sound came from all directions down the halls, from the stairwells, even from behind the walls themselves. Rapid, uneven footsteps, like patients in straitjackets shuffling down the tile floors. "Run," Nate whispered. They grabbed Jess, who now seemed frozen again, and bolted from the surgical room. The building was alive with movement now. Doors creaked open on their own. Lights flickered wildly, and those footsteps, they were everywhere. But no one was ever seen. And Jess just kept whispering those names. I don't know how long I was hiding. Could have been minutes. Could have been hours. Time didn't feel real in that place. Eventually, the noise stopped. No more footsteps. No more whispers. No more shaking walls. Just silence. I stepped out from behind the overturned gurney I'd been crouching under. My flashlight was almost dead, its beam weak and shaky. And that's when I realized something was wrong. The asylum looked different. Not just cleaner, it looked new. The walls were white again, the floors polished, the lights bright and warm. The mold and rust were gone, replaced by the smell of disinfectant. It didn't make sense. I walked down the hall in a daze, and that's when I saw it. A framed newspaper pinned neatly to a corkboard, the Gravesend Gazette. The date read May 12, 1959, and below the headline was my name. Local boy declared missing after entering Gravesend Asylum. My breath caught in my throat. That was impossible. I wasn't even born in 1959. Then, without warning, an alarm blared. Not the crackling, broken sound of a dying building, but a loud, sharp working alarm. From every corner, doctors and nurses in 1950s uniforms rushed past me, pushing stretchers, shouting orders, but none of them even looked at me. It was like I wasn't there. Like I wasn't even real. I tried yelling, waving my arms, nothing. And then I saw it, the front doors, wide open. I ran, sprinting down the hallway, past the staff who didn't see me, past patients who stared straight ahead like statues. I reached the doors, shoved them open, and froze. I wasn't outside. I was standing right back in Ward C, the same hallway where I had first heard the whispers, and she was there. The girl. Her dress was tattered, her hair falling over her pale face, but her eyes were clear, almost sad. She stepped toward me slowly, bare feet silent on the floor. Then she spoke. "Now it's your turn to stay." Her voice was calm, almost gentle. The lights flickered once, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in the grass just outside the rusted fence. The sun was rising. My phone was dead, my clothes damp with dew. I stumbled home, convinced it had all been some twisted nightmare. But no one believed me. No one ever does. Still, sometimes when I close my eyes at night, I hear them again. The whispers, the footsteps, and deep down I know the truth. I never really left Gravesend Asylum.